Welcome back everyone to Tarvold's Perspective, a show where I give my thoughts on a game or series and look at it for what it is. Story, gameplay, and everything in between. And today we're going to continue our look at the Metroid series. If you missed part 1, go check that out first, then jump back here. Okay, first of all, there's something I want to address. Yes, I pronounce her name Samus. And do you know why? It's because of this guy. Samus! I know her name is technically pronounced Samus, but it's really hard to change the hardwiring in my brain after years of playing Melee. Okay, before we start, here's a quick reminder of where we're at with the tier list. Got it? Terrific. Now, let's get into it. The big one, Metroid Prime. Oh boy, the game whose reputation far exceeds the game itself. The first ever 3D Metroid on the Nintendo Gamecube. Skipping over the N64 completely, aside from being in Super Smash Bros., Samus is first shown in the glorious third dimension, and she looks good. Despite sporting some massive 90s pantsuit shoulder pads, this game casts a big shadow, and has ever since it came out. Perfect scores across the board, universal praise, greatest GameCube game ever made. Some even saying the top 10 best video games ever made. This game fucks.
So, this is the team. Whoa. I was just gonna say it. This guy fucks, am I right? Because I'm looking at the rest of you guys. This is the guy in the house doing all the fucking, am I right? You know I'm right. This guy fucks.
Thank you.
Does it deserve such praise? Does the game live up to those initial accolades? Well, let's get into it, shall we? The story this time around happens between Metroid 1 and 2. And as far as I know, this is true for the entire Prime series. The Prime game's narrative does somewhat feel disconnected from the main 2D storyline, but canon-wise, it does technically fit into the rest of the series. Later on, more attempts are made to connect Prime to the 2D games, but we'll get there when we get there. Samus intercepts a distress signal from a nearby space station orbiting Talon 4 a few years after the events of Metroid 1. When she arrives, she finds that it's actually a space pirate's science vessel. And much like Super Metroid, she finds that mostly all the pirates on board have been either maimed, killed, or escaped to the nearby planet. You find creatures from the planet in tubes being mutated and experimented on, eventually coming face to face with the first boss, the Parasite Queen, who you put down pretty easily. Shortly after that, an escape sequence begins, and an explosion knocks all of your upgrades unusable, I guess. Sure, at least there was an attempt to explain it this time, much like Fusion. You then see a familiar face and head back to your ship as quickly as possible to chase Ridley down to the nearby planet. Man, this is feeling familiar. That said, the intro's pretty awesome. It's fast-paced, high-tension, lets you get used to the new controls as well as the items and abilities Samus has. It's a really well-designed tutorial, honestly, and I will absolutely give it props for that. You arrive on the surface of Talon 4, and without knowing much about what's going on, the first thing you'll notice is that it is stunningly beautiful. A soft rain, wildlife and plant life in every direction. Soft, mood-setting music is gorgeous. The word that's tossed around so much with this game is immersion. And I think initially this game really sucks you into the majesty of this new planet. Steam obstructing your visor, electric currents skewing your UI, little fish just swimming around in the water, a flash of your own eyes reflecting back at you, the charge beam warping time and space itself around you. The game really does make you feel like you're Spider-Man. That said, the goal isn't necessarily very clear at this point. You've landed here, but now what? Samus just decides to investigate what's happening and wanders around for a while, to presumably investigate what the hell happened on the frigate Orphean space station she just came from and search for Ridley. Alright, I'm gonna put a pin in the story talk for now to discuss the gameplay. The biggest, most obvious difference here, aside from it being in full 3D, is that this game is played in the first-person view, and you shoot from your gun within said view. Does that mean this game is a first-person shooter? Well, yeah, duh, it totally covers all the criteria. Don't ask such stupid questions, come on now, shit. I played this on the GameCube in my initial series playthrough, but then I decided to play through it again on the Trilogy version to record this footage. And I can honestly say the Trilogy version feels so much better. It has some quirks though. Switching between beams and visors is kind of awkward, and I found that occasionally it just straight up didn't at times. That and exiting out of your morph ball or the map screen can send your gun and vision flailing wildly all over the screen if your Wiimote isn't exactly pointed at where you left it. It can be a little disorienting at times. Shooting missiles is also a bit awkward since you need to hit down on the D-pad, but it's totally worth it for what you get out of it. Free aim with the Wiimote just feels so clean and accurate. I typically shy away from motion controls, but man, it feels so natural here. The Gamecube uses old school GoldenEye Perfect Dark default controls, and while those do work well enough, they really feel stiff compared to the flow of the Wiimote. Another huge upgrade is that the Trilogy version adds jump ball once you obtain the bombs, allowing for much faster movement through morph ball areas. That and the load times with doors are almost non-existent, making for much quicker traversing through different areas. And oh boy, is faster movement ever important here, because dear God, this game is so slow. Everything is slower than all the previous games. I was feeling like a friggin' ninja in Super Metroid Infusion, but I feel like the biggest, heaviest sack of shit traveling through gravy in this game. The Metroid Prime commercial actually perfectly shows just how I feel playing as Samus in this game.
But first, it must be found.
You're heavy. Your default walk speed is agonizingly slow. Your jumps are pathetic, and given your narrow field of view, doubly so on the Gamecube, you can end up getting caught or stuck on anything that's like a foot tall. And then the game adds obstacles to make things even slower. There's grass that just slows you down. There's magma and water traps, huge vertical rooms that can see you being knocked all the way down to the bottom by a single wayward bumblebee. Ah! Shooting missiles is even slower. It's got this ridiculous cooldown between missile shots that has me hammering on the missile button just to pretend like it'll come up faster, but it never does. There is a trick that you can do, thankfully, that makes it a bit faster. By alternating fire between missiles and the power beam, you can kind of reset the missile cooldown. It's hard to pull off though while you're free aiming. Thankfully, the game has a lock-on feature which allows you to snap your view to an enemy in order to ensure your shots land, at least as long as they're not actively, bebopping around the place or disappearing. But nothing is nearly as bad at slowing the pace of this game to a crawl than the scan visor. One of the biggest additions the Prime series adds is the visor system, with the default visors being the combat visor and the scan visor. The combat visor is essentially nothing. It's just Samus's default vision, which is ideal for, well, combat and, seeing and landing sick jumps and trick shots. Booyah! The scan visor, on the other hand, allows you to scan things, and by things, I mean almost every single thing in the goddamn game. Plants, enemies, pickups, bosses, screens, oddly shaped rocks, bosses made of oddly shaped rocks, upgrades, statues, artifacts, Shinra ID cards, literally everything. And to do so, you must first switch to your scan visor, which narrows your field of vision even more so than it already was. Then, lock onto whatever you want to scan and hope to God there isn't a field of scannable objects in the way. Hold it down, watch a bar fill up, and then time ceases to move, and a text box appears, which allows you to read all about whatever you scanned, and sometimes it has multiple pages of text filled with information. If it's an enemy or a boss, it will almost always tell you how to kill it or hint heavily at how to do so. If it's an object in a room you need to interact with, it will either just activate based on you scanning it, or let you know how to solve the puzzle. Oh, this machine isn't working? Oh, turn it on the switch on the other side of the room. Oh, you want to use this elevator? Scan the button that says you can use the elevator first, then you can use the elevator. Wouldn't it make sense just to, use the elevator? Your helmet has to tell the elevator that it wants to use the elevator first. You want to use the elevator, Samus? Scan me, baby. Scan me to take you higher. You're screaming, I know. It's optional. Yeah, it is. But you know what? A lot of it also really isn't. And on your first playthrough, you actually have no idea what's optional and what's not. How are you supposed to know this stuff is optional if no one told you? Would you instinctively just ignore this major feature that you were taught to use, where a lot of the scans needed to progress are not optional? You're trained from the get-go to scan stuff, and not a whole lot in this game is immediately obvious. Most likely since it's relying on the overly literal scan logs to spell it out for you if you can't figure something out. I tried to go through the game scanning as little as possible during the marathon, and I still found myself needing to scan a ton of stuff. I know that a lot of people like this. They like having the literal words spelled out about the planet and the inhabitants and read endless paragraphs about it. I am not one of those people. Metroid has always been so good about conveying the world and its creatures through showing, not telling. Remember this? Yeah, that's what I'm all about. Do I really need to stop and scan and read that this space pirate had a hole blown through his chest? Or could I just see the hole blown through his chest? The one exception I'll make to this is the Chozo and Pirate lore tablets. Those are neat. They give actual history on the planet and the species in the case of the Chozo. And for the pirates, they detail what they're actually doing here on Talon 4, and occasionally some hilarious entries can be found. That said, in the grand scheme of all the scans in the game, these account for a very tiny fraction of them. Your completion rewards are also no longer tied to time or speed, but tied to the amount of stuff you got and the scan log you completed. This here really highlights just how much the scan visor matters. So yeah, when you hear that it's optional, just keep in mind the whole game is built around it. A ton of it is not optional, and you're graded and rewarded for using it in the end. Yeah. Okay, let's talk about immersion. So instead of having blocks and blockades color-coded or straight up showing a picture of the weapon you need to break through them, this game does something kind of cool now in that certain weapons break different materials. Sandstone can be broken by bombs or the charge beam, cordite can be broken by a super missile, talaric can be broken by bombs, and bendesium by power bombs. Now in theory, this is cool, but there's just one tiny problem with this. Alright, I'm gonna show you a picture of 4 materials, and you tell me which one is bendesium. Go ahead. Oh wait. Yeah, joke's on you, they're all fucking bendesium. Do you see the issue here? None of these materials are visually distinguishable from each other, so labeling them is kind of useless. You know how you find out what something is made of? Yeah, that's right. You either spend time spamming all of your explosives on it, or you scan it. Immersion. Okay, I've done a lot of bitching, so let's find some good stuff to talk about. As you now know, I'm a big lover of video game music, and Metroid Prime has one of the best soundtracks in the series. I'd even say next to Super Metroid, it probably is the best. A few of the tracks are remixes from previous games like Magmore Caverns or even Fighting Ridley, and even the file load theme. These are great, but I really love some of the original tracks a lot more. Some of the top ones I enjoy are both Phendrana Depths and Phendrana Drifts, and of course the main title theme. Oh, the music is a lot more ambient than it is melodic in this one, but given the atmosphere of the game, I think that works here just fine. And there's still some catchy tunes to get stuck in your brain for a while. The sound effects, though, could use a lot more crunch. A lot of Samus's weapons have no beef behind them. They just sound like a Yamaha keyboard sound effect. The missiles, for instance, do not sound or feel like I'm shooting a ballistic rocket-propelled explosive. They look like a delightful little firefly, soaring gently through the night sky, erupting and gently tickling whatever it lands on. They got no crunch or power to how they feel. Same with the bombs or the beams. They don't sound like bombs going off, they sound like 80s laser sound effects. The wave beam just sounds like I'm gently rubbing a staticky balloon on things. Overall, the sound effects just came off a bit limp. Ah, crap, I was trying to be positive here. Okay, the transition in and out of Morph Ball is by far the biggest achievement this game pulls off. It feels so natural to go from first-person combat visor to third-person Morph Ball. It really reminds me a lot of getting in and out of vehicles in Halo. It feels very natural, and even controlling the Morph Ball is something I usually never have a problem with, especially with the Jump Ball in the Trilogy version. And it also looks sick. I mean, look at this phase-on-ass Spider Ball. I would buy a bag of these marbles, you know what I'm saying? So the beam power-ups. They no longer stack and are instead separate weapons. And while I wouldn't have a problem with that normally, what it boils down to in execution is less of a choice of preference and more of a constant battle to pick the correct beam. This is true for doors, enemies, and even bosses. Is the enemy a Metroid or a white space pirate? Use the ice beam. Is the enemy robotic or a purple space pirate? Wave beam. Is the enemy a ghost or a yellow space pirate? Power beam. You get the picture. This can even be said for some of the puzzles. It's not hard to figure out, guys. It's just tedious for the sake of it. They do, however, get some totally optional powered up versions of themselves, which is a really cool reward for exploring. The Wave Buster, the Flamethrower, and the Ice Spreader. Though, again, in execution, these kind of fall flat. I only really found the Ice Spreader useful, while the other two just drain your missiles for not nearly enough damage to warrant the cost. Super missiles are fun as hell to use though, and they actually do give a good sense of weight and power when you fire one of those bad boys off. Okay, so these issues obviously bleed into the combat. You fight a lot of the same enemies frequently, and for a while this boils down to shoot a charge shot, shoot a missile, shoot a charge shot, shoot a missile. shoot a charge shot, maybe shoot 2 missiles, lather, rinse, repeat. Until, of course, you meet the previously mentioned red, white, purple, and yellow pirates. Then you can't even use missiles unless they're yellow. Metroids can be taken care of the same way as usual. Freeze them, then missile them, and they go pop. But wait! Then they introduce the red, white, purple, and yellow Metroids. Do you want to know how to kill them? Do you want to know how to kill the red, white, purple, and yellow Metroids? Just drop a power bomb, it nukes them all, and it's much faster. Roll on, nerd. They try to trip you up by making some of the pirates invisible, so you can use the thermal visor and try to pump some relevancy into it. But honestly, I found myself more often than not just tanking the damage and ignoring most enemies if I could. Whenever I found an E-tank, my thought would be, oh thank God, this will make it easier to ignore the combat entirely. Not great. Bosses can be fun though, but some do overstay their welcome a bit. Thardus I actually found to be way more fun in the trilogy version, since you can free aim and try to hit his glowy part while he's rolling around to speed things up a bit. See, I had fun playing this game sometime. The new power-ups in this game are pretty minimal. So we get the thermal and x-ray visor, which, yeah, I feel about the same as these as I do the scan visor. They really don't add much fun to the game and kind of turn each room's puzzle thought process into, did I scan everything? Did I look at everything through the thermal visor? Did I look at everything through the x-ray visor? The visual effects are cool, but holy hell, look at this UI. You think we got enough high-tech circles, guys? It is super cool though to look at Samus's hand in x-ray mode, and it actually shows her making the gesture that represents the beam. That's neat! The only other new upgrades are the Phazon suit and boost ball. The Phazon suit itself looks damn cool, but it kind of suffers from the same thing that every suit upgrade has up to this point. In almost every game except for the first 2, the Various suit has always just let you withstand extreme temperatures, and the Gravity suit allows you to ignore slowdown when underwater. I didn't mention it before, but these really never felt like upgrades to me. It always felt like the game was just taking something away from me first and then giving it back to me when I got the suit. Yeah, you do look cooler, and in some instances you take less damage, which honestly actually does feel more like an upgrade. But I'm not huge on upgrades which do nothing other than just bring you back to the state you were when you could do what you wanted, but the game took it away from you. Do you get what I mean? Here's an example. Missiles. They allow you to open missile doors, sure, but they also allow you to, shoot missiles. The boost ball allows you to do sick kickflip McTwists and half pipes, but it also allows you to boost wherever you want. Wave beam allowed you to hit switches behind closed latches, but it also gave you strategic options in combat to shoot through walls and hit enemies before they could hit you. You see what I mean? The suits never really added anything other than you won't burn to death or go ass slow in water anymore. And the Phazon suit is really no different, except instead of heat, it allows you to withstand Phazon damage. Okay, let's hop back into the story for a second here since we're talking about Phazon. As you progress, and read more scan logs, you come to find the space pirates are here because they're doing research on this mysterious substance called Phazon, which infected and plagued the planet a long time ago once it arrived by this strange meteorite. They found that injecting creatures and even themselves with the substance could give them incredible power, but devastating side effects. On the flip side of things, you also come to find that the Chozo actually used to inhabit this planet as well, but we're slowly losing the battle to keep it thriving to the infectious Phazon. In a last-ditch effort, they sealed up the crash site of the meteor containing the Phazon and locked it behind 12 artifacts, and yeah, let's get into that! I'm sure you guys know how I feel about this part of the game, since I've been pretty open about how much I value a game's pacing. To enter the final area of the game and fight the last couple bosses, you need to obtain 12 different Chozo artifacts, which are scattered through the planet. And when I say scattered, oh shit do I mean scattered, bro. They are in every single tiny nook, cranny, and corner of Talon 4, and all of them have wildly different requirements to get, most of which require a lot of the endgame equipment to obtain. And sweet Jesus, this takes so long to do. If you're doing this without a guide, don't. By the way, just don't do that. You can get vague hints from the Chozo statues at the crash site by scanning them. These help a bit, but not really. You can get them at the start of the game though. You can also pick up some of these as you progress. And when I sat down to play this again to record footage, I tried to do this as much as I could, since I vaguely remembered where they were. But I found even knowing that, a lot of the times I just didn't have the gear to get them at the time and had to just keep on trucking. This just blows, and it's not fun, and it doesn't make any goddamn sense. The Chozo hid an artifact under a sloppily constructed space pirate tower, did they? And then wrote a hint about it? Sure, dude. This murders the pacing in an already slow game and requires so much more additional backtracking in a game with a ton of backtracking. In a typical run through this game, even before trying to collect the artifacts, the backtracking is out of control. You'll see the same corridors, the same enemies, the same annoying ass Chozo ghosts so many times. And yeah, Super Metroid had backtracking too, but not a whole lot. it had some, and it was also fast. And this game very clearly wanted to take Metroid and slow it down for the sake of atmosphere and immersion. And honestly, that's totally okay, but it doesn't mean I have to like it. And it's just not my bag, baby. I have a lot more to say, especially about the spider ball, but I'll come back to that in the Echoes portion. For now, let's wrap up the story. Samus makes her way down through the Phazon mines where she encounters the full swing of the space pirates' experimentation with the Phazon. And after defeating the Omega Pirate, you get the final upgrade, the before mentioned Phazon suit. Now you can grab all the artifacts and make your way to the impact crater. You bring all the artifacts to the Chozo structure when you see that classic villain. Nah, just kidding, it's Ridley. But now he's metal, or meta.
Meta.
Much like the other boss fights, it's pretty fun, but can seriously drag. Once he's dealt with, you get sent inside the crash site and end up in some real Doom looking shit. I mean, look at these platforms. This is hell, right? It's a very short romp though, until you come face to face with Metroid Prime, the source of the Phazon here on Talon 4 that the Chozo had sealed up. I'll give you one hint as to how you beat him. If it's yellow, shoot yellow. If it's white, shoot white. If it's purple, shoot purple. If it's red, shoot red. Lather, rinse, repeat. I'm not even joking or exaggerating at all. When it starts to charge, you can morph ball underneath and pop up on the other side and recommence the Rainbow Assault. I mean, I will give it this. A final boss should typically test the skills you learned throughout the game, and boy, was color recognition tested thoroughly throughout this game. Once the outer shell of Metroid Prime is defeated, you fight the inner essence. And I gotta say, this design is really damn cool. I love the Phazon alien face tentacle nightmare. That said, this fight again just boils down to cycling through your equipment. Except instead of beams this time, it's your visors. Can't see Metroid Prime? Switch to another visor. Can't see it still? Switch to the other visor. Congratulations, you figured out the boss. Do this 10 more times. Occasionally Metroids will spawn in the room, which can make things a bit more interesting, though you can just plop a power bomb down and deal with them instantly. Getting brief access to the Hyper Beam is pretty awesome though. This feels very familiar as well. Metroid Prime finally goes down, but before it does, it uses paint thinner all over Samus and takes the Phazon out of her suit. Then the escape sequence doesn't actually happen at all. You get warped out. How? Why? Since when can Samus just teleport? What? Man, whatever, I am over it.
So this is the point where I give my final thoughts and grade the game. But something happened during the recording of this. The trilogy version has one more quirk I wasn't aware of. After you beat the game and save, you can no longer access your save file anymore. So I had to start the entire game over to get the last bit of footage that I needed. Initially, I was really pissed off. I had to play through this whole game again? So for the hell of it, I started it up this time in hyper mode. And I noticed something immediately. All my scans were already scanned. I was only missing like 5 entries in the scan log. I could completely ignore all the scans and just get the 5 or so I needed to get the best ending. It really felt like a new game plus mode, you know? So I did, and I ended up blazing through the game at like half the time of my last file, 100%ing hyper mode. And I had so much more fun this time around.
Turns out, much like other Metroid games, Prime ends up being more fun on repeat playthroughs, mastering your path, learning the optimal routes to cut down on backtracking and picking up the artifacts. And best of all in the trilogy version, completely ignoring the scan visor as much as possible. I've been picking this game apart due to its various issues, but at the end of the day, the entire experience is truly more than the sum of its parts. Something about it all just comes together, and it's really hard to determine why that is. Don't get me wrong, I still stand by all my criticisms I made, especially for brand new players, but I can't deny that when you finally get into the groove of this game and learn the layout of Talon 4, it clicks.
With that in mind, I think it's time to finally place this game. It is a fantastic game, but it's not perfect. Not even close. The most fun I had with it was when I was completely ignoring a core function of the game. But like I said, this game comes together in such a beautiful way that's bigger than the sum of its parts. So for me personally, I would place Metroid Prime at the top of the B tier. Okay, let's change gears and head back to 2D Metroid at its absolute best. The first remake in the Metroid series, Metroid Zero Mission for the Game Boy Advance.
This game fucking rules. I love it so much. Metroid 1 is pretty rough to get through nowadays, so to have this incredible remake that allows people to digest the whole story is a huge blessing. But this game does so much more than just make Metroid 1 playable. It elevates the Metroid formula to a whole other level. Story-wise, it's just a retelling of the original. Mother Brain blah blah, Metroids blah blah.
Galaxy Federal Police.
Blah blah. The difference here is the way it's told. We get these incredibly cool, short cutscenes showing what is happening on Zebus. I mean, look at these. They're like straight out of a comic book or some shit. Big fan of this, because again, the game is showing, not telling. It all plays out basically the same way though. Descend into Zebus, kill Kraid, kill Ridley, kill Mother Brain, escaping your ship. No huge changes here plot-wise, so let's talk about gameplay. This game uses the same engine as Fusion did, but with a ton of improvements. The biggest improvement I found was that bomb jumping and wall jumping are so much easier to do and feel great when pulling off some sequence breaks. And because of this, the map design is begging you to sequence break. Take this starting area for example. 30 seconds into the game, it looks like you need the long beam to get through here, which is laying just above this area in another room. But lo and behold, there's another way to get through if you're looking for one. Remember, it's not the length of the beam that matters.
It's just where the tip lands.
There are loads of these alternate routes, tons of items and upgrades you can just outright skip, and rewards tied to skipping as much stuff as possible. Seriously, there are different endings for doing low percent runs, under 15% to be exact. There are 9 items you have to get, but the other 6 are totally up to your preferences. If you're looking to play it safe, grab a few more E-tanks. If you want to go more offensive, grab some extra supers or the screw attack.
If you want to cry in the corner, clutching your knees, shaking back and forth as if the walls of your morph ball are collapsing in on you, praying for the sweet release of death,
go for the 9% hard mode run. It's
fun!
Seriously though, the fact that there even is a hard mode and additional rewards for doing runs at 100% or less than 15% adds so much replayability to this fast-paced, incredibly well-designed game. Just when I think there's no way I'm not gonna get myself stuck here, there is always a way to get out of any situation. I was never able to soft lock myself beyond abusing glitches. A thought I had when I'm trying to perfect my 15% path was, my god, they even thought of this? It's astonishing how well this game is put together. Speaking of which, the presentation of this game is top notch. I don't even know how to properly describe the art style here, especially these backgrounds, but damn they looked scrumpulent, which is a word I just made up, and it means fucking tight. The backgrounds are incredibly dark and stylized, which makes sense given that this is a handheld game, but it gives the game this extremely distinct and unique feel to it. All the old and new enemies look awesome, the new bosses are so fun to fight, and the puzzles for once are actually puzzles. In Prime, puzzles almost all the time boiled down to, well, do you have this upgrade? If not, then bye, Felicia. But in Zero Mission, simply having the upgrade isn't enough to be rewarded. Items and upgrades can be hidden behind obstacles that actually make you stop, think, and execute some very specific actions in order to get your bounty. This is especially true with some of the Shine Spark and Speed Boost puzzles. Look at this absolute nonsense. I found a missile pack, but just below it, I noticed a super missile was blocked off from a speed boost block, but this room is so tiny. So I started to do some investigating. Where the hell could I possibly build up enough speed to break this? The only real place close enough was this section of the map. I head over there and lo and behold, there's a speed boost tile, but only 1 tile high. The speed boost has a new function in this game when combined with the jump ball. So now you can shine ball by jumping and selecting your direction while you're holding a charge.
This was taught to you in the gameplay demo on the title screen, by the way.
Okay, now I have it figured out, I thought. I'll run in this room, open the door, shine ball through, and yet it didn't work. I tried a couple more times thinking I must have screwed something up, but no. Just like when shine sparking into a slope, shine balling into a slope continues your momentum, which was happening right in the middle of this room. So I needed to store my charge again, emerge from the hole, and shine ball into the room with the super missile. Holy shit! This felt amazing to pull off, and it was one of the few times in the series to this point where I was actually feeling intellectually tested. This is not just a one-off example either. Zero Mission is littered with fun, elaborate puzzles to make sure you feel like you earned it. And when doing a 100% 2-hour speedrun, getting to these puzzles and executing them quickly is paramount to getting the ending you want. On the flip side, survival and fear of death motivate you more than anything through the 15% or less run on hard mode. This game not only offers you tons of variety and choice when it comes to beating it however you want, but it even offers you 2 extreme difficulties which place value in distinctly different gameplay styles: mastery of exploration and puzzles, and mastery of the combat. It's fucking incredible! No joke, after I finished doing the marathon on Twitch, I casually went and played Zero Mission 3 or 4 more times, each time trying to unlock a new ending. I think this is by far, hands down, the most replayable Metroid game ever made.
So replayable, in fact, that I ended up getting every single ending. Yeah, I'm that into low-res Samus JPEGs.
Not only that, but once you beat the game, you get this symbol next to your save file, which not only unlocks hard mode, but if you use that save file again, your map now has a tracker of every item in a given area as an added perk, and you get access to the entire goddamn original game. Not enough for you? Well, if you connect Metroid Fusion to this game through a link cable, you not only unlock the entire Fusion gallery, which shows off all the Fusion ending rewards, but also the Japan exclusive endings which showcase Samus's past, including when Ridley raided her home planet, her being adopted and raised by the Chozo, and Samus on HGH. So fucking cool. This game just gives me everything I want, and that includes the soundtrack. Predictably, this remixes the music from the original game. And yeah, it's on the GBA, so it's not really Zune worthy, if you know what I mean. Kraid's Lair especially I love hearing once I reach that area. But to be fair, it's mostly what you would expect, and that's fine by me.
In my mind though, does this game have any negatives?
Well, sadly, yes. But honestly, they are very minor. This is the first game so far to have absolutely 0 new upgrades. Zero Mission. Kind of a bummer, honestly. You can make the argument that the power grip is new, but it was already in Fusion as a baked-in function of Samus's fusion suit. This at least contextualizes why Samus can do it in her original suit, so there's that, I guess. Despite that though, there's still some new moves Samus can pull off, like the previously mentioned Shine Ball. There's also some environmental things Samus can do to progress, like allow these little amoeba-looking things to latch onto her and let them crawl onto these plant-like creatures. Or, once turning on the power in Kraid's Lair, Samus can utilize both the ball launchers and these electronic zip lines to solve puzzles, and even fight a boss with it. So despite their lacking new upgrades, there is some cool new stuff to do to make sure you use that mother brain of yours. The only other nitpick I have, which again is minor, is the Chozo statue waypoints. They're a bit much. In Prime, it was fine getting hints since you can get so much more lost in that game, but here it feels kind of unneeded, especially considering what I said earlier about this game allowing you to go wherever you can break through. A lot of these are skippable and ignorable, though some just straight up block your path. There's nothing saying you have to go to their waypoints either. I just felt it a bit unnecessary. Again, this nitpick is so minor. Kraid and Ridley get a huge makeover, which make them 100 times more interesting to fight than they were in the original game. That said, they do feel a bit Super Metroid-y. Their boss fights are very similar, with Ridley's arena just being more horizontal than vertical, and Kraid's being the opposite. But as I said before, what is a run-of-the-mill missile dinner in a regular playthrough becomes a tense, nerve-wracking test of skill and gameplay knowledge on a low-percent run. Holy hell did Ridley take me forever to beat with only 2 missiles and 2 super missiles in my inventory. Really though, I cannot stress enough how much fun the low-percent runs are. Definitely give it a try if you've got a thirst for challenge and are a glutton for punishment. So once these 2 clowns are down, the game of course ends in Torian, though this time the Metroids can absolutely mess you up. They pop out of the background and latch onto you insanely fast. And yeah, in hard mode, there are twice the amount in each room, and they stay frozen for all of like 1.5 seconds or something? It gets really scary really fast, and I haven't felt that kind of on-edge terror from the Metroids, well, ever, honestly. Okay, I'll stop gushing about hard mode right after I say this. I really appreciate that it doesn't just do the typical you take more damage and deal less damage approach. A lot of things get changed. Enemies are sometimes upgraded to their more powerful versions, there can be more of them, some save points are just straight up gone, and all of your upgrades give you much less than they did before. E-tanks only give you 50 energy. Missile tanks only give you 2. Super missile tanks even give you a pitiful increase of 1. I fucking love it. Fuck me up, MZM. Once you get through the hordes of Metroid larvae, the battle with Mother Brain begins. And honestly, it's very similar to the original. The only difference being that she can shoot X-Buster charge shots at you now if you ever leave her sight. She goes boom, she makes room go boom, you piece the fuck out, and my god, what a video game!
This remake of Metroid 1 is absolutely phenomenal. It does everything I would want a remake to do, and I couldn't possibly ask for more.
Oh my god. As if I wasn't already insanely satisfied with everything this game was doing, this remake goes far above and beyond and adds on an entirely massive new end section, Chozodia. Samus's ship gets blasted back down to Zebus, which leaves it in a pile of scrap, and her suit is completely out of commission, leading to a fully playable Zero Suit Samus section. This has to be a callback to the Justin Bailey password from the original game, which allowed you to play as Samus without her suit, right? It has to be. The game then plays out like a 2D Metal Gear Solid, with stealth being the main path to survival. And look guys, Metroid can crawl! You sneak into the space pirate mothership armed only with a pitiful charge pistol. The level design here I cannot praise enough. Each new room has an entirely new way to avoid being caught, whether you're crawling through vents, carefully climbing over laser sensors, biding your time for a space pirate to turn their back on you, or hiding in the shadows to avoid getting blasted. This entire section is 2D stealth done right, and my god, the punishment for being caught is terrific. All latches immediately lock up, every space pirate in the nearby vicinity rushes to slaughter you, and the entire screen blinks red and the alert music starts blasting. The adrenaline rush you get going through Chizodia cannot be understated. You can stun a pirate for like a second with your fully charged pistol, and if you can do it without them seeing you first, you can actually avoid detection. Or if you're already in alert mode, you can stun them and run through them without taking any damage. But aside from that, your best bet is to just run and hide until things blow over. There are some fun little sections too where you can mess with the space pirates and dump them into pits if you're being chased. Oh, and did I also mention that the alert music is a remix of the Space Pirate Criteria theme from Super Metroid?
Stop. My penis can only get so erect.
It's fun and I like having fun and this game is fun! You get through the mothership and wind up in the Chozo ruins, where again, stealth is needed to sneak by the space pirates. Eventually you come to a room with Chozo hieroglyphics all over the wall, and a giant Chozo painting that looks like it's wearing the Varia suit. Samus has a flashback to when she was being raised as a little girl with her surrogate father, when suddenly a large mirror appears and shows Samus staring back. Shooting it with your pistol at the right time activates one of the nearby runes, but shooting it at any other time deals damage to yourself.
Because it's a mirror of you.
This mirror gets held up by a Chozo ghost, which starts attacking Samus with lightning. But once all the runes are lit, another image of Samus appears in the mirror. It's the Varia suit, but not the one you'd acquired previously. It's the one we're all familiar with from future installments. You know, the pantsuit with them big shoulders. Samus's ass gets immediately upgraded to the new powered suit, and with it comes 3 extremely powerful upgrades. Throughout the game, there were these strange artifacts that basically did nothing but allow you to progress. The menu would tell you it was incompatible with your current suit, but no longer! The plasma beam, space jump, and gravity suit are all given to you at once, and a more epic version of the item get theme plays. The gravity suit activates, the most hype version of the Brinstar theme starts blasting, and the power fantasy begins, baby! You can now tear the ass off any dumb space pirate that even thinks of looking in your direction. You rip back through the ruins, destroying everything in your path with no remorse. Pirates are shredded by the plasma beam. You can run through the water sections at top speed and shine spark through your enemies. Screw attack an entire vertical shaft of pirates just trying to get away from you. They're scared now, and they should be. This part never fails to make me feel like an absolute god. It's at this point where you now have the option to run back through Zebus and collect any power-ups you may have missed, or any that you needed one of the new upgrades to obtain. You can also check out the area that will be known as the wrecked ship in Super Metroid, as well as go back through Torian after it was recently blown to shit. God, I love this stuff! Once that's done, you can head back and get the final upgrade, the power bombs. Or don't, you can just skip the part where you need them, see? Game's great. You make your way to the final boss, Mecha Ridley. And yet, this dude looks pretty doofy. Dude can't even fly. What a bitch. It's worth noting that he's much more difficult if you either A, come here with less than 15% items, or B, come here with 100% items. His stats will actually change if you get every item in the game to make this more of a fight and less of an embarrassing shit kicking. Pop a few supers in his chest, and yes, another escape sequence begins. You bust out of there as fast as you can, continuing to just decimate all who get in your way, until you run into this piece of absolute trash. Why are you here? Once you get past the walking trash can, you come to the final room, which sees you fighting against 2 powerful black space pirates. And no joke, these guys took me out way more times than I want to admit. Once they go down, you find a space pirate escape pod, and bam, one last pirate pops out. And yes, he has killed me once. And yes, it was after hours of trying to beat it. And yes, I did scream like I was an anime. You jack his ship, fly up, blast through the last dumbass who thinks he can stop you, and watch as the mothership explodes. At this point, you can finally take a breath, relax. It's all over for real this time. As Samus takes off into space in the escape vessel, the credits start to roll. And as this incredible ending theme comes to a close, we can see the room where Samus got her new suit. The camera zooms in to show a tiny scratched out drawing of baby Samus with her Chozo parents as tears roll down my fucking face. Wow. Just Wow.
This is Metroid at its absolute best. Its total peak. This is far more than a remake. This takes the foundation of the original game and turns it into a timeless, forever classic that I will go back to constantly. If you played this and didn't love it right away, try playing it again. And if that didn't do it for you, try playing it again. This game means so much to me, and there is no doubt in my mind that this belongs right at the top of the S tier. Okay, now let's talk about Echoes. Putting my very suit on for this one.
Alright, I'm not gonna lie. I was dreading playing through this game again. My last and only experience with the game was during the marathon, and I just did not have a good time playing through this for the first time. I would have actual nightmares of being lost in the Torvus bog after logging off for the night. No joke, it was bad. But for this video, I got over it and started up a fresh new file on the trilogy version. This time playing in hyper mode and going for 100% completion to record footage. Replaying the first Prime a couple more times really helped me to see its value, so there's nothing saying I wouldn't have the same experience with Echoes. I have zero nostalgia for this game, since I totally skipped over it when it first came out. I heard about the constant Dark World damage and the beam ammo and thought, nope, and moved on to other games coming out at the time. Straight up, this is the point in the Metroid series timeline where I completely and totally abandoned ship. I never lost my love for the older titles, but I stopped caring about what Metroid was offering once Echoes came out, and nothing really pulled me back in until Samus Returns, 13 years later. This is part of the reason I wanted to do the marathon in the first place, to see if there was any hidden gems that I missed out on. With that said, let's get into it. The story opens up with Samus taking a bounty contract to investigate a loss of contact with a Federation team on a planet called Aether. The planet looks a little off though. It has this purple aura all around it, and this violet lightning is crack-a-lacking all over the place and mangles her ship as it enters the atmosphere. And from here, Samus pops up and appears to have lost her ridiculous World of Warcraft pauldrons this time around, so that's good. Unlike Prime though, the first thing you notice is that things are not beautiful. They're dirty, gross, and downright unsettling. A dense, dank-ass fog is everywhere. Spider webs and nasty plants are all over. And after wandering through this pungent place for a minute or two, you come across this! Jesus Christ! That's some Resident Evil shit right there. No, wait. This is... yeah, friggin' Federation zombie dudes start thrillering towards you as you're forced to deal with them and get the hell out of there. Then you see this. Dark Samus appears, who was teased at the end of the 100% ending of Prime. She's apparently here and leaps into a dark portal. Samus figures that it's a totally fine, cool, normal thing to do and jumps in after her. She finds herself trapped in a spooky valley with tons of strange creatures staring down at her, and Dark Samus making some phase-on wall art or some shit. She blasts the crystal near Samus as the creatures start to encroach on her while she's choking on the very air. Just before she gets gang jumped, Samus shoots into the air and goes back through the portal, but finds that her upgrades are once again gone, apparently stolen by the freaky spider-looking dudes. You do, however, get to keep your Morph Ball, Charge Beam, and Various Suit. After waking from that fever dream, you wander around this desolate, rocky area, and a trail of corpses eventually leads you to a camp of the Federation soldiers you were sent to investigate. And yeah, they're all totally dead, but apparently one of them left a video history of what happened. Who recorded this? It explains what went down and how they were attacked and killed by the aliens. A pretty sweet remix of Samus's theme plays here, as we're shown the attack and slaughter of the feds, including a part of the video showing him uploading the recording of the video? But how could you upload the video of you uploading the video if it's in the video? And also, again, who the fuck is recording this? Samus explores some more and eventually enters a massive temple and is confronted with a dark alpha splinter who appears to be a bigger, meatier, Organization 13-year version of the aliens. Once it goes down, you get something, an unknown upgrade that seemingly does nothing. You then meet another alien creature named Umas, who pleads for Samus to help him. He is a Luminoth, aka a giant moth-type species. He gives a rundown of the situation, telling Samus that long ago, a strange object struck Aether, which tore its very time and space and split the planet into two parallel light and dark versions. And from the dark version, the insatiable Ing were created, and somehow, a war broke out between the Luminoth in the light world and the Ing in the dark world. Oh, I get it now. Moths are attracted to light. All right, that's some good shit, Echoes.
You get one of these.
At this point in time, however, the Luminoth are on the brink of total loss. In order to save them and the planet, the planetary energy must all be concentrated into one side to completely erase the other. Thankfully, that blue light thing we got was the most critical and crucial item for this entire war. It was the energy transfer module, a device that collects planetary energy and allows it to move between the light and dark aether. And now that it's infused into Samus herself, it's up to her to travel to dark aether, collect this energy, and bring it back to light aether. I'd say that Samus should maybe raise an eyebrow at willingly evaporating an entire species of creatures, but let's be honest, she has shown this type of behavior before. Umos finishes off by vaguely threatening Samus, telling her that if she doesn't stop the Ing here for them, the Ing will definitely mess up her people next. Nice dude, real nice. He also allows Samus to translate violet holograms, which essentially acts as a scan key and allows you to access the Aegon Wastes. Okay, that was a mega thick lore dump, but from this point on, it's just straight Metroid gameplay goodness. The game absolutely front loads its story and events right at the start to get you hooked right away, which I do kind of appreciate. Gameplay wise, this game plays identically to Prime. Same controls, same engine, nothing has changed functionally since the first Prime, since they were both released on the Gamecube, and then both remade for the trilogy version. The differences in how Prime 1 and 2 play come from the flavor. The scan visor is of course back with a few changes. Some good, some bad. The good being that the scans are no longer tied to these little orange and red boxes floating over your subject, and instead the entire thing will glow either red, blue, or green. Red and blue are things that you haven't scanned yet, with red typically being something that activates or is contextually relevant in the room, and blue is basically everything else. Green is just an indicator that you've already scanned it. This is cool. However, the issue of overlapping scannable items is kind of made worse in a way, especially if there's like an entire wall or mountain that's scannable. Another new change I'm not a fan of is that there's now additional reading to be done occasionally. After already reading the initial scan info, you can press 2 and be taken to the scan log to read additional pages on top of the stuff you got during the initial scan. I'ma just call this unnecessary. Just put that shit in the first text dump, please. It's no secret I don't like the scan visor, so honestly this didn't really bother me all that much in the long run. It's just a feature I fundamentally don't enjoy, so altering it doesn't do much to change my opinion, at least not tiny changes such as these. Another huge gameplay change in this game is the beams. Pretty early on in the game you get access to the light and dark beams, which are basically just reskins of the plasma and ice beams from Prime 1. The major difference here is that they now have an ammo counter, and at the start of the game, it's pretty damn limited. I've gone over this so many times in my head. I just don't know why this was necessary. It can be downright frustrating at times, and I can't figure out what it adds to the game. In Prime 1, I was critical on how it felt like the beams didn't give you much choice in which ones to use, and you were forced to use whichever beam the game demanded of you. Here, I find that the ammo restrictions just makes me want to avoid using them altogether. It's incredibly annoying to go up against an enemy that's weak to one beam, only to have it run out during the fight, especially when playing on hyper mode difficulty. So because of this, I typically just didn't use them altogether to try and avoid a future headache. I often hear people say that this isn't a big deal because if you use one beam to destroy a refill cache or enemy, it'll drop the opposite beam, meaning that you will always have a means to refill if you're low. And to those people I ask, then why have the ammo system at all if it's so easy to refill it? You also require these to open doors, activate lifts, enable portals, so I constantly found myself being super stingy with them. I just don't get it. Maybe it really is trying to be like Resident Evil and wants to make you scared of running out of ammo, but it didn't make me scared. It just pissed me off. Eventually you get the Annihilator beam, and by eventually I mean like at the very end of the game. This uses one of each ammo type to fire a shot of light and dark fused energy. Really cool, and this is the most powerful beam in the game. Or so I thought. I was ready to tear some ass up with this thing against the mega obnoxious Dark Pirate Commandos, and here's footage of me letting a rip. Yeah, that's some power, dude. Sick. Just like before too, you can find these totally optional power-ups to each beam. The Dark Burst, the Sunburst, and the Sonic Boom. These are awesome and shoot out a giant AoE damage cloud, which can really mangle your opponents. The Sunburst is so friggin' cool, zapping fools as it flies by. But the downside here is that these things take an insane amount of ammo. They eat up 30 of their respective ammo and 5 missiles. And for the Sonic Boom, it's 30 each.
That's too much, man.
So the enemies, they seem to be a very familiar. I'm sure this isn't a shock to many people, but a lot of them are slight alterations of enemies that appeared in Prime 1. There's some heavy asset reuse going on in this game, and while that's not really a big deal, it does sort of take away a bit of the uniqueness on this title specifically. These enemies, though, that are alterations of the final phase of Metroid Prime can just fuck right off. The space pirates are back, and for the longest time, I had no idea why. So I actually went in and read the lore logs, and oh my god, I actually feel terrible for these guys. They are getting fucked up at every turn. I won't read through all of them, but I'll give my quick TLDR version.
Alright guys, we found some new phasons. Send in our best boys to get her done. Okay, yeah, so there's a war going on here, and we're kind of getting mangled in the middle. A goddamn portal opened up in our base. That can't be good. Okay, we got the portal open, and there's some good juicy phazon in there. Finally, something good happened. Alright, our miners are getting messed up in the dark world extracting the goods, so we called in some backup and asked the nerds to give us some protection. Samus is here? But all she does is come into the base, fuck us up and steal our phazon, then pisses off? What the fuck? Okay, so she can just teleport in, steal our shit, and leave. And she broke our stealth cover. This is dog shit. The Darklings are now abusing us in a big way. We just gotta pray that backup arrives soon. Oh god. Dude, the fucking backup got shot down. We are fucked. The feds are now on our asses. Shit is bad. Motherfucker, another Samus showed up, but she's fighting the other one? Let's just bribe the drug addict one to kill the other.
Okay, these cracked me up, and I'm glad I read them, because as far as the story goes, having the pirates here didn't really make sense to me, and it barely affects the story of this game specifically. Dark Samus also feels really out of place. To me, it just feels like both the pirates and Dark Samus are here for the comic relief. They're the Team Rocket of Echoes, just blasting off again. The bosses in this game are big and elaborate and well thought out for the most part. After playing through on hyper mode though, I gotta say I can't recommend it. It commits the sin I mentioned earlier of just buffing enemies' health and nerfing your defense. And due to this, the bosses can take way too long. The friggin' Grapple Guardian, oh my god. I was bored out of my skull, and after a while I was just trying to speed things up, which ultimately made me miss shots or take dumb risks, and in the end probably just made it take longer than it should have. This game's idea of difficulty options comes from testing my patience, not my skill. And it fucking did, and I didn't like it because I'm not a patient man. Still though, Quadraxis is sick. Phase 1 and 3 were especially awesome, and were some of the best boss moments I've had in any Metroid game, period. Overall, I'd say that the boss fights in Echoes are definitely one of its best aspects. Another big change to the gameplay is the structure of the world itself. There's two main changes here. One being, of course, the light and dark mechanic, and the other being how this world is laid out. Instead of letting you go anywhere you want, the game uses these translator doors to wall you out of future areas. There are 3 spots where Umos needs you to extract energy from, and they're somewhat in their own little contained areas to explore. Occasionally there will be elevators going to the other sectors, but these are rarely used, and a typical run through the game will see you first clearing out the Aegon Waste, Torvis Bog, and the Sanctuary Fortress respectively. You can almost treat these like huge Zelda dungeons in a way. Within each area you will go around collecting power-ups, both old and new, fight some mini-bosses, basically explore it from top to bottom. And there's 3 keys hidden in each section, which allow you to fight the boss and extract the planetary energy. Essentially, a boss key. Again, comparing to Zelda, you'll also travel back and forth to the dark and light worlds through these portals, which are in designated spots. The dark world, though, is a lot less traversable than the light world, and oftentimes you'll find yourself confined to just a few rooms when popping into it. But the big catch is that just existing here kills you. Unless you're standing in a protective light bubble, you receive damage over time at a pretty fast rate. That and the whole thing looks like a Twitch streamer's wet dream, just purple LEDs everywhere. I honestly didn't mind this too much, but it was just another thing I had to worry about. The biggest problem I have with this is that save points in this game are very few and far between, and because of this, death comes with a huge time penalty, which was terrifying.
So what ended up happening at times was I would get scared of being killed by whatever was in the next room, so I'd just sit under one of these light beacons like a rotisserie chicken and heal up.
But this can take a while. It became a choice of either risk death and lose time crawling back to where I was, or lose time sitting still and healing for minutes at a time. Either way, the game is testing my patience and sucking the minutes off my life. I found that getting upgrades can take so goddamn long, longer than Prime by a long shot. It took me close to 2.5 hours to get my first new upgrade, the Dark Beam, but even just recollecting your old gear takes a long time. Even with the new world structure, there is a lot of backtracking within a given area, and the layouts can be confusing as hell, especially when you factor in the Dark World. You can't just chart out a path to where you need to go. You need to factor in portal jumps, switch back and forth between the 2 maps, flip that shit turn upside down, and oh my god, look at this! My my brain hurts even trying to process this sometimes. I was checking my map way too often, just trying to make sure I stayed on course. Yet again, in an effort to save time, I have to waste a slightly smaller amount of time to do so. Not only that, but when going through the same rooms over and over, they can just straight up lock the doors on you and force you to either kill the Dark Pirate Commandos, who are invincible about 90% of the time if you don't have the Dark Visor, by the way, or just wait it out until they piss off. Most of the time, it's just easier to curl up in a ball in the corner and wait till they leave to save on health and ammo. Why waste the resources when there is zero benefit to killing them? This feeling of constant interruptions and sedated pacing started to grate on me, and it was feeling much slower than Prime 1. Another reason I really felt the sting of the pacing is that the environments were just so bland and uninteresting. Temple Grounds and Aegon Waste may as well have been the same damn area, because all it is just dusty ass rocks and sand, with the occasional building, box, browns, grays, and everything in between is all we get on display here, and it really made it difficult to get your bearings at times, thus necessitating the constant use of the map. Torvis Bog offers up some rain and a bit more fauna, but the deeper you go into the bog, it just all blends into this putrid piss water area. At the very least, the Sanctuary Fortress offers some really nice eye candy. The futuristic city look was really awesome, and the contrast between the Dark World was especially fun to look at. But holy hell, the map for that area was a nightmare to comprehend. And because of this, you are there for way too long. So eventually, the cool aesthetic just again started to blend into itself, and I got a feeling very similar to Highway Hypnosis. I won't dwell too long on the music either, but I'll just say that the title theme is amazing. The lower Torvis Bog remix of Brinstar from Super Metroid is great, but aside from that, I was basically snoozing. I mentioned before that getting from upgrade to upgrade can feel like it takes forever, and most of the time when you do get one, it's not actually that fun of an upgrade, just another means of opening a door or traversing. Seriously, a ton of the new upgrades have almost no purpose other than to just open shit. The Seeker missiles open purple doors and were useful maybe twice in the entire game in combat against Chica and the final boss. The Echo Visor is by far the dumbest upgrade I've seen yet. It allows you to see sounds, and if you shoot the sounds when you see them, the sounds stop. But if you shoot those same sound emitters when you're not wearing it, those sounds don't stop. Why? 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 The Dark Visor is just the X-ray visor again, but red, and yeah, let's move on. The Gravity Boost is a very close second for dumbest upgrade. Like the Gravity Suit, it prevents you from moving slow in water, but only after you've gone through every single underwater section in the game at a piss slow rate. It does also give the ability to water jetpack your ass Mario Sunshine style up into a bit of a third jump, but only while underwater. So basically, only in this one extremely specific area and maybe a pool or two in other sections. The only upgrade I looked forward to getting was the Screw Attack, which makes its first debut in 3D. It's basically the 2D space jump with some limitations, and also gives you the ability to wall jump on wall jump specific walls. No other walls, just wall jump walls. When I first got this thing, I was so friggin' hyped. I've felt this power before in previous games. Those enemies that gave me shit were about to get shredded like cheese. I saw the first pirate who was about to eat it, and I used the Screw Attack, and he just slightly moved to the side, which sent me careening to my death. Right, so in 3D, it's incredibly easy for enemies to dodge the Screw Attack since you are locked into going straight ahead when you use it, but they exist in 3D space, so they just move. And yeah, it fucking sucks. Not only that, but this thing feels like it has about a 50-50 chance of even working. This could be a quirk of the trilogy version, but holy shit, the amount of times this didn't kick in was driving me absolutely nuts.
I'm getting that hot feeling in my head.
Basically, this is less so used as an attack and more as a, you guessed it, key for progression, allowing you to cover a lot of air and jump up designated walls. Disappointed is me. We also have the Dark Suit, which acts like the Various Suit, except instead of resisting heat, it resists the Dark World, but like kind of. It's like a half Various Suit. You still do take damage in the Dark World after getting it, it's just slower. Yay. I'll say this though, it looks just like Rat Trap from Beast Wars during his trans metal phase, and that's pretty sweet.
I'm a rat with wheels! Cool.
And on top of that, we get the Light Suit, aka the Dark Suit that actually works, aka Skullman. This suit makes you impervious to the Dark World damage, including the purple soup within it, as well as the Ing Storms, which I didn't mention before, but is basically just another environmental hazard preventing you from progressing. It does, however, have one other function. It allows you to travel through light shafts, which both act as a fast travel system between the four main areas, as well as, well, do this. Yeah, so it's basically just another key for another type of door. Having fast travel should be exciting though, right? Yeah, I didn't use this once. You get it at the very end of the game, and you can only use it at and from the places that you extracted the energy. And since you basically need to comb through the entire game's map at this point, you're better off just doing a victory lap around the entire planet one more time to collect some power-ups, and yes, the Sky Temple keys, the end game fetch quest. It wasn't enough that you had to collect 3 keys in every area. Oh no. Now you need to collect 9 more to enter the final area. And this time, most of them are only available after you've obtained the light suit at the last fucking minute. The clues for which are hidden in the very rooms that the keys are located. You find them off the dead bodies of the key bearer Luminoth. And if you miss scanning one of these dudes on your first run through, just use the Google visor. I'm not gonna explain why I think this is an agonizing waste of time. I'll just say that, wait, agonizing waste of time. Holy shit, the Sky Temple key hunt is an agon waste. Okay, let's run through a list of all the things you collect in this game that boil down to nothing but keys to open things and provide little else to the gameplay. Energy transfer module, 4 different Luminoth translator upgrades, 9 Dark Temple keys, 9 Sky Temple keys, the Seeker launcher, the gravity boost, the grapple beam, the Echo visor, the screw attack, the light suit, and yes, the spider ball. Oh, the spider ball! Let's dive into this. Upgrades or abilities that can only be used at certain set pieces kind of bum me out. Until the Prime games, every upgrade you got, you were able to use it wherever and whenever you wanted. Even if it had basically no effect, you could drop a power bomb anywhere you decided to plop your morph balls down. Even the spider ball in Metroid 2 let you use it wherever you wanted. Yeah, the level design didn't really accommodate it very well, but at least it was there. In the Prime games, you can only spider ball on designated spider ball tracks. How exciting. Yet another upgrade taken and turned into a means of locking the player out of progression without it, and then offering no other gameplay function. Lots of games are guilty of this. Banjo-Kazooie and Tooie, Donkey Kong 64, and Twilight Princess especially. Remember how fun the spinner was to use on rails? Yeah, here it is when you're not using it on rails. It's off the chain, yo. The quote-unquote puzzles associated with the spider ball are not puzzles. At best, I would call these obstacle courses. There is no investigative thinking that comes with these. If you see a track, you follow it. If there's a gap, you fall, or you bomb jump, or you boost to it. That's it. I'm not even gonna get into the Spider Ball Guardian. He's been talked about to death. What I never see people talk about is this boss. This was awesome. I actually really enjoyed fighting this thing and thought that the spider and boost ball actually got to shine here, since it was a fight that had me on my toes, making quick decisions on whether to boost across, move left or right, or bide my time to hit the target. It made me think. This boss right here needs way more love. It was super duper. But the amount of spider balling in this game is astounding, and almost none of them require any thinking. Crawl, bomb jump, fall, boost, that's it. And it's usually incredibly obvious. There is one infamous track that takes a long while to get through, and at the end of it, you're forced to make a choice of either go forward or right. If you go right, it just spits you out. No prize for you. Now that's the kind of coin flip choice we all love, right? Okay. I know, this has been a big ol' Tarvel bitch fest. If you love this game, I'm happy for you. And honestly, I'm pretty jealous. I wish I did, truly. But regardless how I feel, it's time to suck it up, finish this thing, and get that 100% hyper mode file so I can put this game to rest. Let's do this! Okay, all the pickups have been obtained. Time to check on my scan log. Okay, a couple Dark Samus scans. Those are no doubt at the end of the game. Same with the Emperor Ing here. And also, dear God, what is this menu system? It's just friggin' awkward.
Can I move this? This is crazy. It's like a Ferris wheel going. I'm trying to.
Wait, what's this? No. No! I'm missing half of a boss scan? Amorbis, which is the boss of the Egg on Wastes, apparently has 2 scans required to complete his log entry, and I only got 1, meaning I can never get 100% on this file. And if I want to get it, I would need to play this whole game over again. The thing that hurts the most too is that you can see here that I did scan it, but since I died and had to refight him, I forgot to rescan it. Thankfully, this time around, the endings aren't tied to the scan log, but instead to item pickup percentage. But there is an art gallery that is locked behind 100%ing the scan log, which will forever taunt me. Thanks for one last kick to the nuts, Echoes. You're the gift that keeps on giving. Okay, for real, let's end this. Samus takes the 9 Sky Temple keys into the Dark World and ends up in Dracula's reverse castle as we make our way to the final showdown with the Emperor Ing. The fight goes through 3 phases. The first includes jump rope and tentacle abuse. The second is destroying him with the feeling that a spider is crawling all over your face. And the final is just feeding him a metric shit ton of Annihilator ammo. The fight is decently fun. I just feel nothing towards this guy. Once he goes down, an actual escape sequence begins. Kind of. Time to take off out of here at top speed. Oh shit, Meowth is back.
That's right.
Okay, instead of an escape run, you have to take down Dark Samus before the timer runs out. She's not too bad, other than the fact that you need to, wait around to absorb her Phazon Sparklies and fire them back at her. I'll never understand her relationship to Phazon. It good, but also it bad? Either way, she looks like the best version of a translucent GBA. Absolutely love this look. She's even got a third eye, like a Metroid would.
Cause she's Metroid Prime, remember?
The final bosses of Prime games always nail the aesthetic for sure. After that, that's it. That's a wrap for Echoes. Hoo boy! That was certainly an experience that I don't think I'll be reliving anytime soon. Samus saves the Luminoth, walks out, and both her and I leave this whole experience in the past.
I don't think this is a bad game. It's competently made, it achieves exactly what it wants to achieve, and for people that like this style of gameplay, I can absolutely see why you might even prefer this one over the original. There's a lot of meat on this bone, and I think there was just too much for me. It felt to be quite a slog, and there were no parts of the game that I was looking forward to. My mind just kept thinking, okay, let's just get through this next part, except for maybe a couple of bosses. I've said it time and time again, I value a game's pacing so much, and because of that, I'm putting this in the C tier. Oh yeah, I totally forgot. This game has multiplayer? It's fun. Here's some clips.
I've been hacked! Why have I been hacked? What does that mean?
Someone's hacking you.
Okay, this isn't terrible. I mean...
Yeah, it's a multiplayer shooter.
Come here, Blue Ball. Ow! No! Blue Ball blew me up!
Aww.
Sucks to suck.
This is ridiculous. And yet, I'm having
a
weird amount of fun.
I'm feeling this.
Yeah.
I'm actually feeling this. Oh shit. Am I that close?
No! 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 What? Oh my god! That's how that works?
Yeah.
So is this game's version of Slappers only balls only?
Come on.
Damn it! Ah! No!
Tight.
Nice game. 2 deaths?
Why are you guys so bad at living?
That was fun.
That was fun.
I'd play that again.
Yeah, that's all I'm gonna say about it. Moving on. Alright, I'm sick of being a Dickie Downer. Let's end on a high note, shall we? Next up, we have the second remake in the Metroid series, Metroid Prime Pinball. Don't worry, I'll keep this brief. This game is some dumb, easily digestible, quick fun. I kinda love it, no lie. And I know it's not really a remake, it's more of a reimagining. It's a retelling of the story of Metroid Prime, but in pinball form. And come on, that's just friggin' outstanding. Do we have the Virtual Boy's Galactic Pinball to thank for this game existing? Who knows, but either way, I'm smiling. For those that don't know, in said game, there is a Metroid minigame where you play as Samus and blast at aliens. Let's go, Samus! I love stuff like this way too much. I was never a pinball guy per se. However, I did play the ever-loving crap out of Pokemon Pinball for the Game Boy Color. I had just gotten hernia surgery when I was a preteen, and because I was a good boy, my mom bought me Pokemon Pinball to play during my recovery. I was really in no shape to move for at least a week, so I became a Pokemon Pinball wizard. Love you, Mom, you're the best. This game plays much better than Pokemon Pinball, of course, but I already kind of had an idea of what a handheld pinball game would be like. And I can honestly say, a lot of the strategy was transferable, so I ended up having an absolute blast with this game. You fire it up in the
first thing you're hit with is this awesome Brinstar remix. I gotta say, after hearing this, I was instantly in love. The gameplay is pretty standard stuff for a pinball game. It's played on the DS, with the board being laid out vertically across both screens, and it even compensates for the gap between the screens when the ball passes from one to the other. Nice touch. It's obviously designed assuming you're using the original DS, considering when it came out and the fact that it came packaged with an actual rumble pack that slid into the GBA slot. How's that for immersion, you nerds? The bumpers are tied to L and R, and you can even tilt the board by hitting the touchscreen, though I never really bothered with it. At any time you can hit B to drop some bombs, to either pop your ball up, free yourself from a Metroid macking, or damage enemies and bosses. You can even get a few upgrades like the power bombs, missiles, and even a brand new upgrade specific to this game, the Force Ball, which turns you into a plasma-juiced death projectile. So automatically this game gets more cred than Zero Mission, am I right? The object of the game is the same as Prime. Find all 12 artifacts, bring them to the artifact temple, and defeat Ridley in Metroid Prime. Getting artifacts in this game, however, is fast and fun and rewarding. You can earn them in many different ways, and there's not 12 specific ones you need to get. You just need to get 12, period, from anywhere. You can finish a mission to defeat all the enemies on screen, do some sick wall jumps, kill a boss, whatever. You can collect these artifacts on a few different tables, all representing areas from Metroid Prime. And the best part is, there's no Magmore Caverns, dude, yes! Okay, it does exist, but it's only in multiplayer. I'll take that. The tables include the Frigate, Talon Overworld, Vendrana, Phazon Mines, Artifact Temple, and the Impact Crater. 4 of these tables are boss fights, which are stupidly fun and engaging. You can fight Thardus as he pelts you with rocks and spin dashes into you after grabbing the powerbomb. The Omega Pirate is in the mines surrounded by space pirates, all assaulting you with rockets and a giant AoE shockwave. Here you can grab those missiles and let them have it. This is so basic, but it plays so well, and I had the fattest smile on my face fighting these guys. The music is all rearranged versions of songs from Prime 1 and 2, but they've been given a bit of juice and bounce to match the energy of the game, which I love. This game has such a good vibe to it, and I lost myself laying in bed playing this for hours. A Metroid Prime game that I can beat in 20 minutes? Sign me the fuck up, man. Throughout the game, you'll see this arrow icon indicating that you can travel to a new table, and once you have 12 artifacts, you'll be able to access the Artifact Temple. Once here, you'll split into a bunch of different balls, and need to hit all 12 of the artifact statues as Ridley flies around and tries to destroy you by carpet bombing the table. This is chaotic, hectic, and again, so much dumb fun. It can be kinda hard to get the last one, but once you do, you can move on. The final table is, of course, the Impact Crater, where you go toe-to-toe with Metroid Prime after picking up the Force Ball upgrade. You can grab these little plasma charges and smack that crab in the face until the core is revealed. It's got some nasty attacks, but it's nothing compared to Ball Girl. Boom, that's it. Credits roll, and afterwards you can continue on in another New Game Plus type mode. You get a 1 icon next to your artifact count and can just keep going. Not only that, but now the Force Ball will appear in the other tables for you to use in the missions if you keep going. The missions themselves even have different difficulty levels that keep progressing. You also unlock Expert Mode, which you can dive right into off the bat from the main menu. Dude, this game just impresses me top to bottom. You can tell it was made with a lot of love. Also, randomly I found a cow? No idea what that was about, so if anyone knows, please drop a comment telling me what that's about. It's of utter importance.
This game was such a pleasant surprise. I'm so glad I got to experience and will no doubt come back for more. Now, I'm gonna place this game pretty high, but it doesn't necessarily mean I think it's better than the games placed below it. I'm placing this game based on how much fun I had, the big fat smile that was on my face the entire time, and how likely I am to come back and play this again. And because of that, I'm placing this just below Fusion in the A tier. Alright, that's all I've got for today, folks. Be sure to stay tuned for part 3, where I'll go through the next 4 games in the Metroid series. And yes, that includes Metroid Other M. Oh, I can't wait! If you liked the video, I would be eternally grateful if you shared it with your friends, fellow Metroid fans, and any community who you think would enjoy it. It would honestly mean the world to me. I want to give a huge thanks to the T community and my supporters on Patreon. I'm sorry these take so long to get out, but have you ever heard of Project Creep? Because I got it bad. I also want to throw out a quick thanks to Pure Kong and Shadow Mario for helping me out with getting some game footage, and Gooms and Connor as well for playing Echo's multiplayer with me. Another
huge thanks and shout out to Toxic X Eternity, an incredible YouTuber who specializes in doing metal video game music covers. He graciously allowed me to use that amazing cover of the Echoes title theme. My personal favorites of his are the Lufia 2 Sinistral theme and the Musical Castle 2 from Mystical Ninja. So sick. I highly suggest you guys go check out his channel. Links in the description below. Are y'all hyped for Dread? I'm hyped for Dread, dude. I cannot wait. I'll be doing my first playthrough on Twitch, so be sure to head over to twitch.tv/TarvaldsQuest and drop a follow to know when I'll be live. And if you're looking for the full Metroid series marathon I already did, check out the Tarvalds Quest VODs channel here on YouTube. Link to the playlist will be in the description below. All right, I'm done. Have a good one, you bunch of butts.